Oh yeah, yeah.
One of you has to come out of the zone.
Oh my god.
He took out our OP.
Sweet. Alright, hold comms. All right, so let's see. We can go ahead and get started, and I appreciate obviously you being here. My first question for you is, how is the team feeling going into the release? Kind of, is the team like ready for this to come out of early access?
Yeah, I mean, I think releasing any game from early access is always a tough thing. I mean, the idea of what an early access a game leaving early access should look like is kind of tends to be different from title to title, and I think lots of different teams have different ideas around it. I think it's also genre dependent and game dependent. I think for us, it really marks the completion of several really core systems overhauls, the animation overhaul, the sound effects overhaul, and kind of this solidifying of systems that really we felt were critical in the game, that we just did not have when we released. I mean, you may remember this, Alpine, but we didn't even have leaning in the game when we released. You couldn't lean, you couldn't vault. It was pretty pretty
Just
bare bones. So
exactly, yeah.
yeah, I mean, for the team itself, I think that we're obviously really, really excited. There's always nerves though with any release. You just never know. We've had this in the player test environment for quite a long time. We've been playing it a lot. We've been working on it like, the yeah, to say that a lot of work has gone into this is a huge understatement. So yeah, I think overall, from a kind of a high level, the whole team's really excited to show the game to a broader audience, excited to show up the Eastern Front. We're nervous as well because you kind of never know what happens. No matter how much you think it's all kind of locked in, it's still scary. And then I think finally, just we're excited to kind of crack on and keep working on this game. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of content planned for the future. not much will change as far as the way that we relate to the community through dev briefings and our pace of work and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think that's kind of how we're feeling. But overall, really positive, really excited, and we really hope that people enjoy playing the game as much as we've enjoyed working on it.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know you guys, as far as I'm concerned, have been one of the top developers for a video game that I've come across. You guys maintain communication at all times, which is unheard of. But it
Oh, I
definitely,
appreciate it.
definitely understandable that the game is your baby. I mean, it's been around since what? It's been going on about 5 or 6 years now, just from inception, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think we first started working in the engine in March 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the Kickstarter in 2017. Yeah, it's just sort of been like kind of milestone for us after milestone. And obviously hugely exciting, and it's been really amazing that it's gone sort of continued to go well. So we're really fortunate in that we're able to kind of, do what we love as a job is a massive, just a massive blessing for us.
All right, so let's go ahead and hop into a little bit more meat of the game. So I know for me personally, I'm very interested. I know we talked about Rising Storm 2 earlier. The implementation of the multiplayer campaign. Do you guys have any updates on that? When that'll be happening? And a question when it comes to that campaign, and you can answer this or this could be under wraps. I don't know, but I know you're trying to follow a historic kind of campaign set. So like obviously one map will lead to the other, will lead to the other. Will that change if a German team wins historically by beating the U.S. on where in real life they lost? If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. So I think so obviously there's lots of design challenges with regard to this idea. The basic idea for people who don't know of a campaign mode is almost like a very like quite a sophisticated server browser replacement where you could essentially join a game and you'd be presented alongside the 99 other players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You choose a team, US or German, Allied or Axis, I should say,
Mm-hmm.
and that will stay the same for the entire campaign, the entire duration of the campaign. And the campaign could go for 6 hours, it could go for 12 hours. It's quite a significant portion of time because you are fighting sequential battles
Right.
back and forth, kind of eventually across the world. So essentially, how it works is you'll join a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see a map of we think Western and Eastern Europe, and that might expand obviously as different forces or different area theaters kind of are added to the game.
Right.
And essentially, you'll have the resources within the game at play. And what we're thinking is that the the vehicles that you managed to survive in the previous game, you might be able to carry forward into your next game. We're looking at resources carrying through each game, and then the decision for teams to attack or defend, or we're not sure how to term it at the moment, but
Right.
basically a sort of evenly matched battle would end in sort of a warfare game being played. So essentially, what happens is the US would probably start by choosing a region,
Mm-hmm.
so the Cotentin Peninsula in France, or we might call it the beaches, and that might let you choose between playing Utah Beach or Omaha Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And so we give you options of which map you want to play, so you're never forced to play one. And we think that players will make tactical decisions about which map they play.
Sure.
And then depending on the outcome of that battle, you would then move to Saint-Mère-Église and Saint-Marie-de-Mont, so sort of the inland behind the beaches. And again, a chance for the Allies to triumph or the Axis to triumph.
Mm-hmm.
Something that we're trying to figure out at the moment is, well, how do we include the Russian forces in this?
Right.
It's why we're thinking that we'll probably do Allies or Axis. So instead of maybe fighting through almost as like one character from the beaches all the way to eventually Germany,
Mm-hmm.
we might do it almost like you're playing Axis and Allies, or a larger scale game
Got it.
where you might fight something over on the beaches, and then you might pivot over to the Eastern Front to fight a battle inland on the Eastern Front. And so at the moment, we're just trying to think deeply about that. It's a really hard design challenge, obviously, because we all know that the Eastern Front happened. Some of the battles that we've got for the Eastern Front, Kursk and Stalingrad, happened 2-3 years before the Western Front.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is design a system that feels as though the actions you take in one battle affect the outcome, or could potentially affect the outcome of the next battle and the decisions that you make moving into the next battle. And that it also feels like you're playing a campaign across the world, and the players aren't forced to just choose, oh, am I going to play as am I just going to play the beaches in the US sort of Western Front side of things? Or can we design a system that brings in both together?
So a very large, grand scale kind of thing.
Exactly, because then that would then obviously allow us to fold in the Brits. They might be fighting in North Africa or somewhere else. Potentially, if we bring the Japanese forces into the game, that would incorporate that. So we think that the critical thing is to include is for it to be a robust design that kind of captures the right level of stakes in it, so that I think the best type of campaign modes that we've played are ones that get you really committed and you really want to see it through. It becomes quite personal to you.
Right.
Victory becomes really personal. So that's something that we're keen to do, and we're just sort of figuring out at the moment, how we do that. How many battles ideally would a campaign take? While some of us have 12 hours to play, I think do we stretch it through to 32 hours? Do we try and keep it relatively succinct, so a campaign might ideally be over in 4, 5, or 6 battles? These are all sort of the questions we're tossing and turning on at the moment.
Sure.
And ideally, we're looking at launching campaign mode next year.
Awesome.
Just because it is, we think it will be a massive game changer. We think it will be something that will, we feel that if we do this correctly, most players would choose to engage with the game through the campaign mode than the server browser. And I should also say that the way this would work would be that the community hosted servers, of course, would be able to host campaign mode, so there wouldn't be any sort of disadvantage for the communities that host their own servers.
Yeah, I agree.
Sort of how we're looking at it.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to hear that, because I know for me, when Rising Storm 2 started to get old for me, just playing a map and then another map and no continuity between them, once they implemented that campaign mode, I 100% re-engaged with the game on a whole new level. And I'm very
that's
pleased.
been my experience as well.
I'm very pleased to see that you guys are taking that seriously and fleshing that out.
The other question, obviously, the other design conundrum is, how do you make all 100 players in that kind of decision about which territory you attack? Who do you give the weight of emphasis to on the decision making?
Right.
Do we keep the command to be the same throughout? If we do, is that fair to other players who might want to be the commander? Lots of stuff like that is obviously like a huge kind of design challenge for us, because both come with benefits and negatives.
Sure. Yeah, that kind of, the whole timeline thing that you're speaking of kind of reminds me of something along the lines of a Star Wars Battlefield, where they were able to, or Battlefront, excuse me, where they're able to kind of, use the movie trilogies as their, essentially timing how the maps played out very easily. Whereas obviously, like you said, it's a lot more difficult to span the different fronts of the World War II area and operating areas for all these different countries. So, but yeah, I'm very much looking forward to what you guys have coming for that.
I appreciate that. It's something I'm personally very passionate about, and I think it will be kind of the thing that rounds out and gives greater context to some of the resource, to the resources within the game, to some of the bigger decisions. And obviously, like everything, we'll be sharing our thinking with everyone within a dev briefing. Yeah, So no, we're really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll capture a lot of the diehard historical fans of the time period with that because, people, when you play a match on a random map and then you go play a match on another random map without any kind of consequences, like you mentioned, whereas when you're playing on a campaign and kind of essentially you can kind of place yourself in that time period and experience, the foot soldier's point of view and kind of feel like everything matters.
Yeah, 100%. Gives you a greater buy-in, and I think, makes you feel like you're part of the war effort more so than just, yeah, exactly as you said, the sort of random battles.
Do you have any console update or release info that you can give us? Because I've been getting hit up by a lot of these guys recently. Looking forward to the Hell Let Loose launch on the console systems. I believe it's the next series of Xbox and PlayStation.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so it's both, and there'll be cross-play between both of them, but not. We're keeping the PC community separate from the console community,
Right.
because we think that it's better suited to do that.
Sure.
And then obviously, we're super excited to see what console players obviously think of the game. One of the first, well, really possibly the first hardcore kind of tactical game of its kind on the console, probably excluding Operation Flashpoint, Dragon Rising from back in 2008. But
Mm-hmm.
I can't say exactly when,
Okay.
because a lot of people will be cranky with me. But I can say it's going to be this year. And as we know, we're approaching the middle of the year, so
Yep.
it's not too far away.
Cool.
But we're super excited. A huge amount of hard work has gone into that by our partner studio, Flix, who have been really lovingly taking it over to console.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to kind of reiterate that, the only thing we have changed for the PC game, with regard to the console affecting it, has been making the UI sort of controller friendly,
Sure.
and making it so that you can use a controller if you want on the PC. And the only real difference um, between the two is that we will be having an auto aim functionality on the console only.
Yeah, that is standard. So,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
surprising there. But yeah, I had it was a question that had to be asked because I know that the console players are eagerly awaiting that launch.
Oh, yeah, and we're just really excited to see, to introduce this type of game to a whole
Mm-hmm.
new audience, really.
Yeah, I know. I've got guys that'll comment on my videos and they'll be like, "Man, I can't wait." They'll watch the PC version and they'll be like, "I can't wait for this to come out on consoles." So, so let's talk about some things. I've been wondering about a couple of things. Obviously this is design choices and everything like that. Do you guys have any future ideas as far as anything regarding a party system for kind of going into a game with a group of maybe up to, because a typical squad is 6 players, anything like a party system for 6 players to hop into a match?
Yes, so 100%. I mean, for all the reasons we've already said, like we want people to play together. The
Mm-hmm.
more that we can do to help them do that, the better. We actually had a quick play function even, that we wanted to put in for update 7 as far back as that, and we kind of began work on it and started getting it into QA and realized just how much additional complexity there was to it.
Sure.
And so we want to bring that back as well. I think we're gonna spend the next probably 12 months really refining some more systems, the ability to group up together, to lobby together, and then obviously join a game together and how that works. Obviously, there's a lot of rationalization. We've had a lot of conversations with Flix when it comes to sort of the console side of things,
Mm-hmm.
as to how they might do that. And if they come up with a really great solution, I think we'll probably be heavily inspired by that solution and bring as much of it across into the PC game as possible. So I think that could be a real benefit there actually from what they're looking at doing for that, for the console side of the game. But yeah, definitely we want a quick play option that will get you into the action really fast if you're just playing alone, and then obviously a lobby option where you can kind of a lot of logic needs to go into it. Obviously, if you have
Right.
6 players, I think probably we'd need to simply get you into the same game on the same side,
Mm-hmm.
probably, so
Right.
that you can then decide, okay, well, three of us will, three of us will go infantry, three might go armor, or as you can imagine, two recon, four
Right.
infantry, or all six infantry, and that sort of thing. Just trying to figure that out is obviously a bit of a challenge.
Sure, sure. That would be fantastic if that whenever that comes around. But that sounds great to me. For taking that further, do you have any idea as far as creating something along the lines of a career stat tracking? Because I know people love to watch numbers and they love to see how they're doing in the game. Not necessarily in terms of just seeing their kill to death, but like how many rounds their accuracy, how many rounds they've shot, how many garrisons they've destroyed, things like that. Do you have anything like that planned for the future?
That is coming. I mean, actually, the personal stats page was sort of meant to do that,
Right.
and it still is designed to do that. So we're going to be basically expanding that in the very near future.
Mm-hmm.
And then exactly as you've said, like we want to create a stats page where you exactly right. You can track um, sort of all the gory detail of the guns you're using and the
Mm-hmm.
games you've had and things like that. The question I think for us is, I mean, it's the question we ask ourselves with almost everything in Hell Let Loose is sort of how deep do we need to go here?
Right.
And you can think about it for about 10 seconds and realize probably pretty deep. For instance, it would be really fun to see the kind of like your recent 10 games. Did you win or did you lose? Who were you
Mm-hmm.
playing? What map are you playing on? Um, how effective were you with regard to your in-game score, all that sort of stuff. You'd be great to see sort of your overall kill to death ratio. It'd be great to see how many supply boxes you've dropped, all that sort of stuff. So it's for us, it's just a question of we always look at this stuff and we go, oh, stats page, that won't be, that should be quite easy, really. Every other game has a stats page. And then we think about it for Hell Let Loose and we're like, actually, for the type of information you want to see and the amount of it there is,
Mm-hmm.
this will require some real love. We're going to need tabs and the ability to kind of cycle and see histories of games and things like that. So yeah, it's something definitely we're keen to do, similar to a bit of a replay system, even something we're keen to do just to kind of build some more infrastructure in around the game that really lets you kind of engage with it just beyond the game itself. You can see how you're doing, and we did have a lot of fun, I have to say, um, implementing the achievement system and seeing some of those numbers start to come through has been really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know some of the more hardcore guys are interested to see, which guns they're more accurate with and, which guns gets them the most kills, things like that. So that's cool to see that you guys are thinking about that as well. Um,
Mm.
what about? Do you have any more? And I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. Do you guys have any more future plans for new commander abilities, such as like something along the lines of like Stuka dive bombers or Stalin's organs and things like that?
Yeah, well, we actually have Stalin's organs coming in update 10,
Oh,
funnily enough,
perfect.
which is going to be it's just a lot of fun.
Sure.
Functions very different. It's kind of like the Russian equivalent of the bombing run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, 100%. I mean, th- a lot of the complaints at the moment about the game is sort of that the teams are matched up too similarly, and there isn't enough sort of asymmetry, balanced asymmetry.
Mm-hmm.
With the Soviets.
which is kind of counterintuitive as you say it. It's kind of contradictory. To have asymmetry and have it balanced is, kind of
It's definitely a challenge, that's for sure.
right.
But I mean, yeah. So it's for instance like stuff that we're doing would be instead of the bombing run, we have Stalin's organs, a Katyusha. We really want to bring in the Stuka dive bomber, as you said. It's such an iconic moment, hearing that siren, the
Mm-hmm.
horn go as it dives. And so the kind of instant answer to this is yes.
Cool.
The suite of commander abilities is going to expand. We want to really have a lot of fun with it. We feel that it's one of the most interesting aspects of the game to know that sort of all the stuff you're seeing happening around you, be it bombing runs flying over, supply runs, the fact that players can look up spot the plane, spot the type of plane, and know what that's doing for the enemy with regards to intelligence that they're receiving, is just, it's really fantastic. We think it's a part of the game that's working really well. We played a game just before where, the quicker that you're able to recognize an airhead coming down is the difference between possibly losing the sector or not.
Oh, 100% on that one.
So yeah, we definitely want to widen that suite of abilities. And it's really something quite easy for us to do,
Cool.
which is what's so wonderful about it as well. We can really modify different aspects of it, have some fun with it. But yeah, Stuka dive bombers. We'd love to do an aerial drop with parachutes. We'd love to do naval barrages. We'd love to do a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of
rocket strafing. Yeah.
I think that kind of goes back to your comment on the career stat tracking. How deep do you want to jump down that rabbit hole?
Definitely, but I think something lovely about those sort of the commander abilities is that we can kind of implement them. We can implement one or two as we've been doing recently, one or two an update, in a way that just kind of gives you an extra tool in the toolbox now. Even now though, the commander basically has something to do every second of the game. So we just need to figure out like where the line is without making it feel like extremely complicated. Or very, very intimidating. But we're really kind of enjoying thinking about the way that these things can kind of shift the meta.
Yeah, I can honestly say that I've been focusing on my squad leader and just basic infantry roles like almost exclusively, but I've recently started playing as the commander, and it was quite a bit of fun, especially when your team had enough nodes to kind of unleash his full arsenal. So I definitely am looking forward to what you guys are going to be doing there. What in terms of these two roles, just kind of looking for a little expansion on what you guys have planned for them, if any. I'm sure you do. Again, I pretty much know the answer to this. The engineer, is he going to be able to combat the barbed wire in any sort of specific way, like such as wire cutters or something like a Bangalore? And then also, do you have anything for the medics?
I get asked about the barbed wire a lot, and it's one of those typical Hell Let Loose style things where, if we were to make Hell Let Loose 2, all of this would be so neatly tied together. We wouldn't put barbed wire in the maps. Just all of this would be, life would be a lot easier.
Right.
But definitely, I think we just need to have a think about how we do this in a cost-effective way. That's kind of been the reason why we haven't so far, is just that it is it's extremely expensive to make them all the destructible kind, which obviously you can destroy them with satchel charges. So we're actually having a conversation in the near future. We're going to revisit it once we leave early access, get some breathing room. We're going to have a big think about it. We've changed our mapping practices a lot now.
Sure.
To obviously knowing what we know now, so that you don't sort of have Utah Beach style endless walls of completely impenetrable wire.
Right.
But yeah, we'd love to do Bangalores, we'd love to do satchels, we'd love to do wire cutters. We just need to, the main thing holding us back at the minute is just making sure that we can carry that much load on the server, i.e. replicating, okay, this barbed wire has been destroyed, this barbed wire has been destroyed.
Right.
The nature of the placeable barbed wire is it's quite sort of one in, one out. Whereas obviously the map barbed wire, there's a lot of it. So we're actually gonna have a meeting about this in after we release update 10 and have a big think about what we do here.
Cool.
And in terms of the medic, yeah, every single role has kind of other stuff that we want to bring to it, be it guns or gadgets or lots of different stuff. And we think that it's an area for us to get pretty creative. We're thinking a lot about the medic. We're thinking about potentially giving the medic the ability. We would love to do sort of like a padre who could actually bandage people up and revive people, but could also maybe even offer the rosary near bodies, and that it would give a resource gain potentially, or it would mitigate resource loss in the area that they are. That's sort of one idea. There's lots of different kind of thoughts we've had about the medic, about how they could potentially either pick people up faster, pick groups of people up, things like that. So we're definitely thinking a lot about the medic. We know that the medic has some, it does have utility. It's used in specific ways. We're just trying to think creatively about how we could broaden that out. Also, how we could incentivize people to wait for the medic. Maybe the medic points is able to aim at a down friendly player and hit a button and just stall their giving up or interrupt their giving up once, just so they can't do it again.
Right.
But just so it interrupts it, and we can show that player a message, potentially saying medic is on the way.
Sure.
So you can't abuse it. You can't, you can't force someone not to give up if they want to. But it gives a medic a little extra shot to get there, and because often players just simply won't notice the icon on their HUD and could just use being told that
Sure.
a medic's on the way.
Yeah, I think I don't. This is kind of something I just thought of. Would you potentially be interested in maybe giving the player, if he waits for the medic, an XP bonus or extra XP for
we
waiting
actually
for the
do
medics?
that.
Oh, really?
We actually do that already. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we actually do that already. I think that was actually the Hill 400 update. So yeah, no,
Oh.
you actually, the basic thinking there is that we're kind of almost refunding you the cost of the potential impact you had in the time that you waited and didn't just give up.
Yeah, I
So
think
it's actually really beneficial to wait for a medic. I mean, and this is one of those complexities that we need to better advertise to players.
yeah, I can honestly say that I did not know that. I did
Well,
not
no,
know
no.
that.
I mean, that's definitely our fault. It's something that we can communicate much better, but it's something that we did. Yeah, we thought about. So I think we probably need to just message that.
Yeah,
A bit
maybe
more.
on the release screens, the where you can hold down the
Yes.
function button, maybe put that in parentheses next to that, saying that if you, to some degree, that if you wait for the medic, you will receive this much XP.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Because exactly, we put it in there for that specific reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or yeah, any type of a bonus, I think that would occur from the medic picking you up would definitely incentivize people to wait. I think that's cool. So I know that there has been, just from scrolling through some of the forums and stuff, that there seems to be a divide on whether or not the new OPs and garrisons should have that shiny effect on them. I know that for me, I think that the introduction of if you get close enough, you can hear some radio chatter. I think that's kind of cool. But as far as me being more of a authentic styled player, I personally would prefer that it not be shiny. But I think that the introduction of the radio chatter, if you get close enough, is pretty sweet.
Yeah, so I mean, I think first up, just to let you know, we've really dialed the shine down. It's not ambiently shiny anymore. It does sort of almost like
Like something to let you know that you
yeah,
can kind of engage with it, sort of thing.
exactly. I mean, and that was I mean, I think we just needed to find where the effect was. I think I should just take a moment to kind of explain why we did it. And the main reason is because within Hell Let Loose, there are some key, obviously significant items around on the battlefield, oftentimes look like stuff already on the battlefield.
Yep.
That for players who are sort of joining the game, would walk past without even going to investigate them.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted just something that visually, I think I totally agree. It was way too obnoxious in the first iteration of it. We've dialed it back a lot. I'm sure some people won't like it. I think
Mm-hmm.
that if we still, if portions of the community still dislike it, even after we've dialed it back so much, we'll definitely introduce a toggle that will let you just kind of disable it, I think.
Yep.
But we just see it as a way of helping, particularly newer players go, oh, okay, this is something important. This is something I need to engage with. And the design conundrum here was is basically I think the radio chatter from the OP. I think Adam's done a fantastic job on the sound. It actually adds a lot for me to the battlefield. Makes me
Mm-hmm.
really feel like I'm
And you're near
The
something significant of the enemy, like you're approaching something that the enemy doesn't want you to be near.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that we really underestimated. We should have, if I could go back in time, I would have got that done. We should have got that done, a year ago. But the basic idea was, yep, we love the radio effect, but something that we wanted to do with this sort of like, I don't know what to call it. It's not a shine. It's like it's a generic computer game language for, hey, look at this because it's something significant to you.
Yeah.
Was basically drawing attention to stuff like ammo boxes. A lot of the time in the game, I'll need ammo, and I end up having to check my map and then toggle my HUD and then wander around trying to sort of mine sweep for the ammo box. And I think what we wanted to do is try and take some pressure off just having the HUD. Because the HUD, as you know, is an extremely busy interface when you do reveal it. And yeah, we've limited the range of this effect to, I think it's 10 or 15 meters, which sounds huge, but in the game with game FOVs is actually quite close. We know it's contentious. We've really done it there because we want to kind of create a common. Sorry, and I should say that part of why we've done it and we've added it, we've got it on consistent objects is because obviously you can't attach a sound cue to the ammo boxes and things like that.
Yeah.
It's mainly the idea.
I think the idea of the toggle switch, just like you guys have it for the tracer rounds on the weapons, would be a really good idea. I mean, I know from myself, like you mentioned, the busy interface of the HUD, but some people really like that. Whereas I turn almost everything off just because that's the way I like to play the game. I like to have a more realistic vision of the game. Whereas I know plenty of players enjoy having the information on the screen at all times. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I'm one of the same players. I'm the player who basically keeps everything off, and then I like just pointing at people and kind of picking between the uniforms. And obviously vehicles are quite distinct. I mean, it's
Right.
hard to mistake the wrong vehicle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, look, I think it's definitely something we'll introduce a toggle for. I'm not surprised that the community doesn't like it, because I think for anyone who's played Hell Let Loose for any period of time, there's absolutely no need for these things to kind of be recognized as gameplay important because we all know that they are.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, no, I totally get it. I think we'll definitely introduce a toggle, and we can sort that out. And I think ultimately with everything with Hell Let Loose, we're trying to. I mean, you look at it with the nameplate indicators, the amount of iterations it took for us to get that right, and in the end, getting it right basically just meant giving players the freedom to kind of customize their experience.
Yeah, I know for me, and I've talked with several others. Some of the, like you mentioned, new players may not know what some of these interactable items are. However, I know that a lot of the guys that have been around for a while, some of the joy is from kind of searching for these things like the OPs and the garrisons and being able to kind of like, you're like, oh man, that garrison has to be over in this area, and then going and searching for it and then finally finding it. There's definitely some really kind of draw to doing that, like being able to jump like out of your home, like your defensive structure, going to try and find where this attacking enemy is coming from and taking down that valuable garrison that they had. So I know that some of the more hardcore guys enjoyed kind of just hunting for those.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, I don't think that that's been removed from the game in so
Sure.
much as, this is only stuff that you really recognize if you're within, such close proximity that, the garrison's already disabled. And obviously, you almost, with a garrison, you actually almost have to be kind of almost standing. It ends up being quite large on the screen. And we've also matched the glint, the glint or whatever you want to call it to, the radius of the sound of the radio, basically.
Cool.
So we still feel that the Gary hunters out there, the OP hunters out there, it's not like there it is, from sort of 50 meters away. It's still a battle to find it. But yeah, we've definitely toned down the effect, and we do want to preserve that because we know that is the bread and butter, of Hell Let Loose, is the pursuit and the removal of enemy spawn locations.
Yeah, and I think some of that concern is also just from people that haven't yet had a chance to play, and potentially, like I know for myself, like I still haven't had a chance to try out the new update yet. I plan on doing that tonight, but I haven't had a
Yeah,
chance. I haven't had a chance to play it yet, so it definitely. I think it's a concern more than a fact at this point. Just a concern that finding the garrisons and the OPs is going to be too easy. So it's good to know that you
yeah,
guys
no,
are
totally,
addressing
totally. It was
addressing
something we
that.
probably should have explained a bit more in depth. Our hope now is that even though the toggle is to come, our hope now is that when you see it, you're not like, ugh. It's much more subtle.
So here's a couple of questions regarding some issues that I know that I've come across just playing. The first one being, how are things going regarding some clipping issues with structures? Whereas, like, if you're near sandbags or a bunker, your bullets or some of the Panzerschreck or bazooka shells will impact and literally where it looks like you have a clear shot. How are you
Yeah.
guys addressing some of that stuff?
I think what we're going to do is after we release early access, something that we did with the Eastern Front to a large degree was, although we still use the same sandbag meshes, but we've changed a lot of our mapping practices
Mm-hmm.
with the Eastern Front. Hopefully, we think for the better.
Mm-hmm.
We're using less. It doesn't actually feel like it when you do play the Eastern Front maps, but we're using less assets but higher quality assets with much greater control over sort of the collision on them and things like that. So what our plan basically to do is we kind of know some of the trouble assets, particularly there's a couple of meshes, a couple of sandbag meshes and a couple of other spots in the game, and we basically want to take some time to really polish those up. The way that we're using um, the way that we're mapping now essentially means that normally if we fix it in one place, we manage to fix it in every place. So yeah, we're thankful for kind of patience in the community. We will get the stuff tackled.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it has been, oh, it's just one of those symptoms as well of like, Hell Let Loose has kind of been the experience of a whole bunch of developers going from rookie developers to now like sort of grizzled veterans in the future and in newer practices that we're using now. There's so much that we know to look out for
Awesome.
just when it comes to good gameplay. So yeah, we know we do apologize for that. We know it's extremely annoying that you fire a Panzerschreck and end up killing yourself or
But
all your friends
I don't.
and yeah.
Yeah, I personally don't think an apology is necessary. I think you guys are creating something that is beyond the scale of what a studio of your size should have been able to accomplish. So as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of the community is concerned, I think we're willing to wait and see how you guys are able to just polish this game across the board as launch approaches. Um,
Yeah, we're just I think for us it's a sort of steady expansion. But you're definitely right. I mean, I think like for the team the size it is to have put out kind of the amount of content that has kind of gone out, we've definitely quickly learned what not to do, as well as what to do. So I suppose my main encouragement would be just that we do know this stuff exists. We do have bug reports for it, and we will be fixing this stuff.
Very cool.
It's just and then also I think critically trying to prevent it from happening in the future.
So another, honestly, my last question regarding anything in the game itself specifically, and it kind of relates to my name, which is the sniper portion. The American Sniper Scope has had a jitter in it.
Oh, don't even talk to me about scopes. So the problem we run into a lot of engine issues
Right.
um, with Hell Let Loose. I mean, and it's specifically Unreal Engine 4. It's not a particular version. We're always up to date with the versions, and basically, it's a very complicated, long conversation. But something called world origin rebasing and float points end up meaning that there is jitter and imprecision the further you get from sort of world origin, which is sort of the center part of the map.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes all these annoying issues, and we have to do a thing called world origin rebasing, which means
Okay.
we kind of trick everyone into thinking that they're in the center of the map. But you can't do that with vehicles nearby you because that will throw the vehicles in the air, like we all remember.
Right. Right.
So there's a whole bunch of complication there, and what it basically means is you either introduce a whole bunch of artificial scope movement on the scope
Mm-hmm.
that you'll see in other games in Unreal Engine in order to kind of compensate and hide that.
Mm-hmm.
But look, fundamentally, I think we tried the sort of almost like the picture-in-picture
Right.
style of scope. And I think we might be going to kind of a hybrid system. It's very hard to explain, but the way that we would render it would mean that it would eliminate scope jitter. It would probably fill much more of your screen.
Right.
It won't feel like it's sitting so much in the it's not, it won't feel like you're kind of zooming into the scope as you are now. It'll be much more center screen, but we just think, look, the key thing here is that you get a great experience while you're sniping, and we just never feel like we've hit that.
Yeah.
And it's extremely frustrating for me because, as you can imagine, we've literally reworked it like 15 times.
Yeah.
So that is on the cards actually quite soon. It's not. We don't think it'll be a big rework. We think we'll probably go back to sort of what we first had, almost like an overlay, but doing it in a much more sophisticated way
Cool.
that looks much better, feels much better, and fundamentally eliminates jitter completely. Yeah, it just really gives you the experience you're wanting from a a World War II sniping experience. It's this whole funny process where you try one thing, you look at a whole bunch of games made in the same engine, you try and do that. Does it work for your game? Probably not. And then and so now in the future we're kind of like, we've done that, we're going to do this. So yeah, I think we've got a pretty good idea worked out for it.
Fantastic. Last question, and then I'll let you be on your way because I know that it is super late where you are.
No worries.
So, any update you can give us towards the future, and what have you guys got your sights set on next for as far as updates?
I mean, oh gosh, I mean, it's really very similar to sort of the past kind of couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
With in some ways, look, we're looking at doing less full systems overhauls. We've already done a huge amount of systems overhauls where we're we've redone the animation system, we've redone a lot of the way the sound works. And what we're now looking at doing is really hardening up and continuing to polish and then make very, very meaningful changes when it comes to introducing new things. So to give you hard examples, we want to build out the medium tank game. We
Mm-hmm.
want to shift the armor meta away from just Pumas and Tigers and IS-1s and
Right.
Jumbos, and keep it much more on medium tanks, Panzer IV. This is kind of non-upgun Sherman, and then the T-34. So that when the commander brings a Tiger to the battlefield, it feels special for all players, and all players are keen to quickly report it in, and it feels scary that there's a Tiger.
Right.
And it feels scary that there's an IS-1. It's scary that there's a Jumbo. So that's one thing. So for update 11, we're looking at trying to bring in probably the Panzer IV, and then the non-upgun Sherman. We'd love to also bring in the half tracks because we think that that's going to have one big final impact on the meta. I mean, we say this, but then everything has an impact on the meta.
Right.
But we think that half tracks is quite a core component. We would also like to bring in the trench gun and the FG-42.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, how much time do you have?
Right.
We
Right.
have we want to rework a lot of the trouble strong points in the Western Front, where they're really offset or really difficult to push, be it for barbed wire or because they're kind of sitting on the wrong side of the sector, things
Right.
like that. We want to introduce German offensive and warfare for Omaha, and we also want to rework a lot of Omaha because Omaha is a map that we just don't feel is quite representative of the quality that we're looking for. And the same goes for maps like Purple Heart Lane and I mean, even Foy, there's some things we could do there with regard to the quality of the assets and optimization that we could kind of push further. We have other maps also in the works. Got another Eastern Front map, and we've got another Western Front map in the works, and then we'll probably, I think what we'll probably do is less on additional quantity of sort of US forces maps, and more on just making sure the ones that we've got are really high quality. We want to definitely introduce a whole ton of Eastern Front maps, and then also we want to think about, what we might do with the Brits. We want to do flamethrowers, we want to do fire, we want to do mortars as a deployable gadget. We want to do MG nests as deployables. We want to do flak cannons as deployables. We've had conversations around whether we let you shoot planes down with flak positions as kind of a counter. I mean, yeah, the list is just like, it's insane.
Sure.
We want to do Jeeps, Kubelwagens, expand I know that half people hate them and half the people love them. We want to expand sort of the different uniforms that you'd be able to unlock. We want to, I mean, really, I mean, and then obviously campaign mode, as we've spoken about. So yeah, there's just an absolute ton of it. And we are really excited to crack on with it and and kind of keep the community on the journey with us.
Yeah, I know that the fans of the game, that's fantastic news. I mean, World War II is such a plethora of things that you can dive into and just expand to your heart's content. So I know everybody's excited for anything you guys do. Well, so that concludes my interview with you. I appreciate your time and for you being here and giving everybody an inside scoop on all of this. And so that's basically all I got. Any other last words from you, Max?
Oh, just no. Thank you so much for having such fantastic questions. And always love to chat Alpine. And I hope people got something out of it. I think kind of lastly, I just want to reiterate that while we might be leaving early access, that you can expect to see us working just as hard beyond the release, really, really working to keep polishing Hell Let Loose, keep expanding it, and keep it moving forward, really.
Awesome. Yeah, I know myself and the rest of the fans are very thankful for the hard work and the dedication you guys put into this game and what you've got planned for the future. So with that being said, I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Perfect. Thank you, Max.